The glass doors of Whitman and Associates gleamed in the afternoon sunlight as Elena pushed them open, balancing a bag of Thai food in one hand and her purse in the other. She smiled, imagining the surprise on Derek's face when she showed up with his favorite lunch. After years of marriage, she still loved doing little things to brighten his day. The lobby was impressive with its marble floors and modern furniture. Elena approached the reception desk where a young woman with red hair typed on her computer. "Hi, I'm here to see Derek Harlan. I'm his wife." The receptionist looked up with a polite smile that quickly turned to confusion. "I'm sorry, what was the name again?" "Derek Harlan. He works here as a senior attorney." Elena set the food bag on the counter, a small knot forming in her stomach. The woman's fingers flew across her keyboard, her eyebrows drawing together. "I don't see anyone by that name in our system. Are you sure he works at this location?" Elena's heart began to pound. "This is Whitman and Associates, right? Downtown office." "Yes, but we don't have a Derek Harlan employed here. Let me check with the partners." The receptionist picked up her phone, but Elena was already pulling out her cell phone with shaking hands. She scrolled through her photos until she found a recent picture of Derek at a company barbecue. At least that's what he had told her it was. "Is this him?" Elena turned her phone toward the receptionist. The woman leaned forward, studying the image. Her face changed, recognition flickering in her eyes. "Oh, that's Brooke's boyfriend. He comes here sometimes to pick her up, but he doesn't work here." The lobby tilted. Elena gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. "Brooke's boyfriend? Who is Brooke?" "She's a paralegal on the third floor. They've been together for some time now. I've seen them leaving together many times." The receptionist's voice softened as she saw Elena's face drain of color. "Are you okay? Do you need to sit down?" Elena couldn't breathe. The marble floor seemed to ripple beneath her feet. Years of marriage? Every morning, Derek kissed her goodbye and said he was going to work. Every evening, he came home with stories about cases and clients and office drama, all lies. "How long?" Elena whispered. "How long have you seen them together?" The receptionist bit her lip. "I've been working here for some time, and they were already together when I started. I'm so sorry, I had no idea he was married." Elena's mind raced backward through memories that now felt like someone else's life. Not long ago, they had celebrated an anniversary. Derek had given her a diamond bracelet and told her she was the only woman he would ever love. Before that, they had tried for a baby. She had cried every month when the test came back negative, and Derek had held her and promised they would keep trying. All of it lies. "Where is she?" Elena heard herself ask. "Where is Brooke right now?" "I really shouldn't." The receptionist paused as her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "Actually, she just left for lunch. She and Derek went to the cafe across the street. They go there often." Elena looked at the calendar on her phone. Today was the day she had decided to surprise her husband with lunch because she had the afternoon off from her accounting firm. The day she had almost canceled because a client meeting ran late. If she had canceled, she would have never known. Elena grabbed the bag of food and her purse. "Thank you for telling me the truth." "Wait, are you going over there? Maybe you should—" But Elena was already walking toward the doors. Her legs moved automatically, carrying her across the street to the small cafe with its cheerful blue awning. Through the window she could see them. Derek sat at a corner table, laughing at something the woman across from him was saying. She was blonde and petite, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than Elena's entire work wardrobe. Brooke. Derek reached across the table and took Brooke's hand. He lifted it to his lips and kissed her fingers, the same gesture he had made to Elena just that morning before leaving for his fake job. Elena stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching her husband live a completely different life. A life where she didn't exist. Where their marriage didn't exist. Where he was free to love someone else without consequence. She wanted to storm in there, wanted to throw the bag of Thai food at his lying face, wanted to scream and cry and demand answers. But something stopped her. Some instinct whispered that charging him would give him power, would let him control the narrative, would allow him to gaslight her or manipulate her or make her doubt what she was seeing with her own eyes. Instead, Elena pulled out her phone and took a photograph, then another. Derek laughing, Brooke smiling. Their hands intertwined. Evidence. Her phone buzzed with a text from Morgan, her best friend since college. How did the surprise lunch go? Elena's fingers trembled as she typed back. Can you meet me? No, I need you. Where are you? Corner of 5th and Main, the coffee shop. On my way. Elena walked several blocks to the coffee shop and sank into a chair by the window. She stared at the photographs on her phone, trying to make them make sense. Trying to reconcile the man in those pictures with the husband who had kissed her goodbye that morning. The husband who had promised to pick up groceries on his way home. The husband who had held her the night before and told her he loved her. Who was Derek Harlan? Did she even know him at all? Morgan burst through the door a short while later, her dark curls wild from running. She took one look at Elena's face and slid into the chair across from her. What happened? Elena handed her the phone without speaking. Morgan scrolled through the photographs, her expression darkening with each image. No, Elena, no, this can't be real. I went to his office to surprise him with lunch. Elena's voice sounded strange in her own ears, flat and disconnected. The receptionist said he doesn't work there, said he comes there to see his girlfriend Brooke. I found them at lunch together. That lying piece of... Morgan caught herself, reaching across the table to grip Elena's hand. Okay, we need to think clearly. What else do you know? Nothing. I know nothing. Our entire marriage is apparently a lie. Elena felt the tears a-coming but pushed them back. Not yet. She couldn't fall apart yet. Where does he actually work? What has he been doing every day? Where does the money come from? Morgan's eyes widened. The money? Elena, you need to check your accounts right now. Elena's blood ran cold. She pulled up her banking app with shaking fingers. Their joint account where both their paychecks were deposited, where they paid bills and saved for their future. She scrolled through the recent transactions. Withdrawal? Several $1,000s recently. Withdrawal. Another large amount a short time ago. The amounts went back over time. Tens of thousands of dollars gone. He's been stealing from us, Elena whispered. All this time he's been taking our money. Morgan leaned over to see the screen. Her jaw tightened. Not just stealing, funding his other life. Elena, you need a lawyer, today. Elena nodded numbly. A lawyer. Divorce. The word felt impossible in her mouth, but what choice did she have? Her husband was a stranger, a thief, a liar who had built an entire existence separate from their marriage. But first, Morgan said firmly, you need to protect yourself. Don't confront him yet. Don't let him know you know. We need to get all the evidence first. I don't understand how this is happening, Elena said. How could I not know? How could I live with someone for years and not see this? Because you trusted him. Because you're a good person who doesn't assume the worst in people. Morgan squeezed her hand. But now you know. And now we make sure he pays for every single lie. Elena looked at the photographs on her phone again. Derek's smile, Brooke's laugh. The life they had built while destroying hers. Something hardened in her chest, replacing the shock with cold clarity. She had been a good wife, a faithful partner. She had supported Derek's career, managed their home, and loved him without reservation. And he had repaid her with betrayal so complete, it erased their entire history together. You're right, Elena said quietly. We get evidence, we build a case, and then I make sure Derek Harlan regrets every lie he's ever told me. Morgan's smile was grim. That's my girl. Now let's figure out who your husband really is. Elena sat in her home office that evening, staring at years of financial records spread across her desk. Derek wouldn't be home for a while. He never was on certain days. Now she knew why. Morgan had helped her create a plan before they parted ways. Don't act different. Don't let him suspect. Gather information. Document everything. Elena had agreed, though her hands had shook with rage and heartbreak the entire time. Now alone in the house she had thought was their home, Elena methodically went through every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt she could find. The pattern was worse than she had imagined. The withdrawals weren't random, they were strategic. Timed to coincide with her business trips or late nights at her accounting firm. Large amounts when she went to conferences. Other sums when she worked overtime during busy seasons. Even more when she visited family. He had planned this, calculated when she would be too busy or too far away to notice the missing money. Elena pulled up their investment accounts. Her inheritance from her grandmother sat in a separate account that required both signatures for withdrawals. At least it was supposed to. She logged in with trembling fingers. The balance made her gasp. Her grandmother had left her a substantial sum years ago. The account should have grown with careful investing. It showed far less. "No," Elena whispered. "No, no, no." She clicked through the transaction history. Withdrawal after withdrawal, each one showing her electronic signature. But she had never authorized these, never even accessed this account except to check the statements. Derek had forged her signature, had stolen her inheritance, had taken the money her grandmother had left to secure her future and used it to fund his affair. Elena's phone rang. Morgan's name flashed on the screen. "Did you find anything?" Morgan asked. "He stole my inheritance." Elena's voice cracked. "A large amount from my grandmother. He forged my signature." Silence on the other end, then Morgan's sharp intake of breath. "That's fraud. That's identity theft. Elena, this isn't just a divorce anymore. This is criminal." "I know." Elena wiped her eyes angrily. She refused to cry. "Not yet. What else could he be hiding? Where is he really working? How is he paying for all this?" "We need a private investigator," Morgan said. "Someone who can follow him, find out the truth. I have a friend who used one during her custody battle. He's good and discreet. Set it up." Elena clicked through more files on her computer. "I'm going through his laptop now. He leaves it at home because he supposedly has a work computer. Be careful. Don't leave any trace that you've been looking." Elena opened Derek's email. He wasn't logged out, hadn't bothered with passwords at home. Why would he? His trusting wife would never snoop. The inbox was full of messages from Brooke. Elena forced herself to read them chronologically, starting from some time ago. "Can't wait to see you tonight. The apartment is perfect." They had been involved for years, not the shorter time she first thought. Elena clicked through to the apartment lease. A luxury building downtown, 2 bedrooms, monthly rent that was more than their mortgage. The lease was in Derek's name only, paid through a credit card she had never seen. More emails revealed birthday gifts for Brooke. A trip to Paris when Derek had told Elena he was at a legal conference. Jewelry receipts. Restaurant bills from places Elena had begged to try for their anniversary, but Derek had always said were too expensive. "I found the apartment," Elena told Morgan. "He's been living a double life for years, taking her on trips, buying her gifts with my grandmother's money." "That's good. I mean, it's awful, but it's evidence. The investigator can photograph everything. Can you forward those emails to yourself?" Elena created a new email address using her maiden name and forwarded everything. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, the apartment lease, Brooke's emails, every piece of evidence she could find. A text message popped up on Derek's phone, which he had left charging on the kitchen counter. Elena picked it up. "No password. Why bother when your wife trusts you completely?" The message was from Brooke. "Can't wait for tomorrow night. You still make my heart race." Tomorrow was the day Derek had marked as dinner with clients. More lies. He would be celebrating with Brooke while Elena sat at home, probably wondering why he was late again. Elena photographed everything on Derek's phone. His messages with Brooke, his calendar full of fake appointments, his photo gallery filled with pictures of Brooke in the apartment, on the Paris trip, at romantic dinners. Then she found the folder labeled Future Plans. Inside were house listings, all in Brooke's name, mortgage pre-approvals, insurance quotes for a family policy, Derek was planning to leave, to take whatever was left of their money and start over with Brooke. Probably waited until he had drained every account and asset first. Elena's hands shook with rage. She carefully returned everything to exactly where she had found it. No trace, no sign that she knew anything. Her phone buzzed. The private investigator Morgan had contacted wanted to meet the next morning. Elena confirmed the appointment before she had to go to her office. The front door opened. Derek's keys jingled as he hung them on the hook. "Elena, I'm home." Elena took a deep breath. She smoothed her expression into something neutral. Then she walked out of the office with a smile she didn't feel. Derek stood in the kitchen loosening his tie. He looked the same as he had that morning. Same handsome face, same warm eyes, same easy smile. But Elena saw him differently now. Saw the stranger wearing her husband's face. "Hey, beautiful." Derek crossed the room and kissed her cheek. The same cheek he had kissed goodbye that morning. The same lips that had kissed Brooke's fingers at lunch. "How was your day?" "Fine. Quiet." Elena kept her voice steady. "How was work?" "Exhausting. Had a difficult client meeting that ran long." Derek pulled a beer from the refrigerator. "What's for dinner?" The casual lie slipped from his mouth so easily. No hesitation, no guilt, just another evening in his double life. "I was thinking of ordering pizza," Elena said. "I didn't have time to cook." "Sounds good. You work too hard, you know that." Derek wrapped his arm around her waist. "You should take some time off. Maybe we could take a trip somewhere." A trip? With what money? The money he had already spent on Paris with Brooke? The inheritance he had stolen? The accounts he had drained? "Maybe," Elena said. "I'll think about it." They ordered pizza and ate in front of the television. Derek's arm draped across her shoulders like it had been countless times before. He told her about his fake day at his fake job with his fake clients. Elena nodded and responded at the right moments, playing a role in this grotesque theater. When Derek fell asleep that night, Elena lay awake beside him. The man she had loved for years snored softly, his face peaceful in the moonlight. She wondered if Brooke was lying awake too, thinking about him, waiting for the day when Derek would leave his wife and they could be together openly. That day would never come, not the way Brooke imagined. Because Elena wasn't going to be the heartbroken wife who fell apart. She wasn't going to beg him to stay or fight for their marriage. There was nothing left to fight for. The marriage had been dead for years. She just hadn't known it. The next day, she would meet with the investigator. She would start building her case. She would find out every single truth Derek had buried under his lies. And then she would make sure that both Derek and Brooke understood the consequences of destroying someone's life. Elena turned over and closed her eyes. Sleep wouldn't come, but she didn't need it. She needed clarity, strength, strategy, and justice. Cold, calculated, legal justice that would leave Derek with nothing but regrets. The private investigator's office was in a nondescript building near the courthouse. Elena arrived early, clutching a folder full of printed emails and bank statements. Victor Lang was in his later years with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything. He shook Elena's hand with a firm grip and gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Morgan told me a little about your situation," Victor said, "but I'd like to hear it from you. Start from the beginning." Elena laid out the entire story. The visit to Derek's supposed workplace, the receptionist's revelation, the cafe across the street, the financial records, the stolen inheritance, the apartment, the emails, all of it. Victor took notes on a yellow legal pad, his expression neutral but his pen moving quickly. When Elena finished, he sat back and studied her. "You've done good work gathering this initial evidence," he said. "Most people come to me emotional and empty-handed. You came prepared. That tells me you're serious about this." "I am," Elena said firmly. "I want to know everything. Where he works. How long this has been going on. What else he's hiding. I want every lie exposed." "That's what I do." Victor pulled out a contract. My standard rate is a set amount per hour plus expenses. For a case like this, I estimate we're looking at a significant number of hours of work, maybe more depending on what we find. Elena didn't hesitate. Do it, whatever it costs. They signed the contract and Victor started outlining his approach. He would follow Derek for the next period of time, documenting his daily activities. He would investigate Brooke, find out her background and role in this. He would trace the financial transactions to see where the money went. He would access public records to find any assets or properties registered in Derek's name. One question, Victor said. Do you want me to approach the woman, Brooke? Get her to talk? Elena thought about it, then shook her head. Not yet. I want all the facts first. I don't want to alert either of them that I know anything. Smart. The element of surprise is your biggest advantage right now. Victor stood up. I'll send you regular updates. Photographs, location tracking, any information I uncover. Keep all of it secure. Don't confront your husband until we have the complete picture. I won't. Elena stood and shook his hand again. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're just getting started. Elena went to work at her accounting firm trying to focus on spreadsheets and tax returns while her phone buzzed periodically with updates from Victor. By midday, she had photographs of Derek leaving their house and driving not to Whitman and Associates, but to a commercial real estate office on the east side. Later, Victor sent a text. Found his real job. He works as a leasing agent for premium properties. His salary is modest. Elena stared at her phone. Derek had been lying about his career for their entire marriage. She had thought he was a successful attorney making a high income. He was a leasing agent making barely enough to cover their mortgage. Where had the rest of their money come from? They lived comfortably, took vacations, drove nice cars. If Derek only made a modest salary and Elena made a good income as an accountant, they should have been struggling, unless Derek had been stealing from her accounts all along. Victor sent another message. Meeting with forensic accountant. Need your authorization to access all joint financial records. Elena called him immediately. You have it, whatever you need. By the end of the day, Victor had compiled a preliminary report. Elena read it in her car in the parking lot, her hands shaking with rage. Derek's lies went back to the beginning. He had never been an attorney, never graduated from law school, had worked as a leasing agent for premium properties for years, earning a modest salary that he deposited into their joint account. The rest of their income had come from Elena. Her salary, her inheritance, her investment accounts. Derek had systematically drained every account she owned, forging signatures and creating fake investment statements to hide the missing money. The apartment he shared with Brooke cost a significant amount each month. The trips, the gifts, the lifestyle he had built with her had been funded entirely by stealing from Elena. Total amount stolen over the years, a substantial sum. Elena sat in her car and let the tears come. Not for Derek, not for their marriage. Those were already dead. She cried for the version of herself who had trusted him completely, who had loved him without reservation, who had planned a future that was never real. Then she wiped her eyes and called Victor back. I want criminal charges, she said. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, whatever you can make stick. I want him prosecuted. That's a different process, Victor warned. Are you sure? Criminal charges mean police reports, investigations, potential trial. It's public. I'm sure. He stole a large amount from me. That's not just a divorce issue, that's a crime. All right, I'll coordinate with the forensic accountant and prepare a complete report for the police. In the meantime, I'm still following him. There might be more. There was always more with Derek. Every day, Victor sent new revelations. Derek had taken out credit cards in Elena's name, running up significant debt. He had borrowed against their home equity without her knowledge. He had sold Elena's car that she kept in storage, a classic her father had restored before he died, and pocketed the money. Each discovery was another wound, another betrayal. But Elena forced herself to read every report, study every photograph, absorb every painful detail. She needed to know the full scope of what Derek had done, needed ammunition for the battles ahead. Sometime into the investigation, Victor sent a message that made Elena's blood run cold. Found something. Need to meet in person soon if possible. They met at a quiet restaurant far from Elena's neighborhood. Victor slid a folder across the table. Derek and Brooke are planning to leave, he said quietly. I found emails discussing it. They're looking at houses in another state, planning to move soon. Elena opened the folder. Inside were printouts of emails between Derek and Brooke discussing their future. A house with a pool. Jobs in a new city. Starting fresh where nobody knew them. And one email that made Elena's stomach turn. Once I transfer the last of the accounts, we'll be set. Another short period and we can disappear. She'll never find us. He's planning to clean you out completely and run, Victor said grimly. We need to move faster than I thought. Elena nodded, her jaw tight. Then we move. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a divorce attorney. I want to freeze all our accounts, file charges, and serve him with papers before he can take another dollar. I'll have the complete report ready by morning, everything documented, photographed, and verified. The forensic accountant is finishing her analysis tonight. Victor paused. Elena, this is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? Derek made it ugly when he decided to steal from me and plan his escape. Elena closed the folder and met Victor's eyes. I'm not the one who should be worried about ugly. He is. That night, Elena couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed next to Derek, watching him dream peacefully, and wondered what he was dreaming about. His future with Brooke? The life he was planning in another state? The money he thought was still hidden? Soon he had planned to disappear, to leave Elena with nothing but debt and empty accounts, to start over as if their years together had never existed. But Elena wasn't going to let that happen. She had spent the recent period gathering evidence, building her case, and preparing for war. The next day she would strike first, and Derek would never see it coming. The law offices of Whitman and Associates occupied a high floor of a sleek glass building downtown. Valerie Quinn had a reputation as one of the toughest divorce attorneys in the city, known for her aggressive strategies and refusal to back down. Elena needed aggressive. She needed someone who wouldn't encourage reconciliation or suggest marriage counseling. She needed a fighter. Valerie was in her middle years, with dark skin, natural hair, pulled back in a professional style, and eyes that assessed Elena the moment she walked through the door. Morgan had recommended her, saying Valerie had helped her cousin through a brutal divorce where the husband tried to hide assets. Ms. Voss, Valerie said, shaking Elena's hand, Morgan speaks highly of you. Please sit down and tell me what brings you here. Elena laid out the entire situation again, this time with Victor's comprehensive report and the forensic accountant's analysis. Valerie listened without interrupting, taking notes on her tablet. When Elena finished, Valerie sat back and studied her. You've done excellent preliminary work. Most clients come to me emotional and unprepared. You came ready for battle. This is a battle, Elena said. Derek has stolen a large sum from me, forged my signatures, destroyed my credit, and is planning to disappear with his girlfriend soon. I want everything, the house, the accounts, restitution for every dollar he stole, and I want him prosecuted. Valerie's smile was sharp. Then we're going to get along very well. Let me outline what we're dealing with legally. She pulled up a document on her computer and turned the screen toward Elena. First, the divorce itself. Given the fraud and deception, we can file on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. That strengthens your position significantly. Second, asset protection. We need to immediately freeze all joint accounts, revoke his access to your personal accounts, and put a hold on any credit cards or loans in your name. I'll file emergency motions with the court soon. Third, the criminal case. The evidence you've gathered supports charges of fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, and forgery. I'll work with a criminal attorney to file the necessary reports with the police. Fourth, restitution. We're going to pursue full recovery of all stolen funds, plus damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and punitive damages. Given the scope of his deception, a judge will likely be sympathetic. Elena listened to each point, feeling a sense of control returning for the first time in the recent period. How long will this take? The divorce itself, probably several months if it goes to trial. He'll likely contest everything once he realizes what he's facing. The criminal case could take longer, but we can use the civil proceedings to apply pressure. Valerie leaned forward. Here's my strategy. We hit him with everything at once. Serve divorce papers, freeze the accounts, file criminal charges, and put a restraining order in place all on the same day. We don't give him time to hide more assets or manipulate the situation. When? Elena asked. In a few days. That gives me time to file all the necessary motions and coordinate with the police. It also means you have a short time to gather any additional evidence and prepare yourself emotionally. A few days. Elena thought about what that meant. A few more days of pretending everything was normal. A few more days of sleeping next to a man who was planning to rob her blind. A few more days of acting like she didn't know her entire marriage was a lie. I can do a few days, Elena said. Valerie nodded approvingly. Good. During those days, I need you to do several things. First, make copies of everything. Documents, photographs, passwords, account numbers. Store them somewhere Derek can't access them. Second, move any sentimental items or irreplaceable possessions out of the house. Family photos, your grandmother's jewelry, anything you don't want potentially destroyed or missing. Morgan said you can store things at her place. Yes, Elena confirmed. She's been helping me through this. Third, prepare yourself for his reaction. When we serve him, he's going to be shocked, angry, and probably vindictive. You cannot engage with him. Don't argue, don't explain, don't let him manipulate you into feeling guilty. Just refer him to me. Valerie handed Elena a business card. This is my direct number. If he tries to contact you, you don't respond. If he shows up at your work or home, you call the police. The restraining order will be in place to protect you, but you have to be willing to enforce it. I will, Elena promised. They spent the next period going through every detail of the case. Valerie drafted the divorce petition citing specific instances of adultery and financial abuse. She prepared motions to freeze accounts and secure Elena's assets. She coordinated with Detective Julian Reyes, who would handle the criminal investigation. By the time Elena left the law office, she had a legal strategy and a timeline for execution. In a few days, Derek would be served with divorce papers at his real job. The accounts would be frozen before he could access them. The restraining order would prevent him from coming to their house, and Detective Reyes would be waiting to question him about the missing money. Elena spent that evening moving her most precious belongings to Morgan's apartment. Her grandmother's jewelry box, photo albums from her childhood, her father's watch, the quilt her mother had made, everything that mattered more than money. The next day, she met with the forensic accountant to review the final analysis. The number was actually higher than initially calculated, a larger sum stolen over the course of their marriage. Derek had started small, taking a few hundred here and there. Then he had grown bolder, stealing larger amounts more frequently. Later, Victor sent his final surveillance report. Derek had been to the apartment with Brooke every day that week. They had gone shopping for furniture for their new house. They had celebrated Brooke's promotion at work with champagne and dinner at an expensive restaurant, all funded with Elena's money. That night, Elena packed a bag and moved in with Morgan. She couldn't spend one more night in that house, pretending to be the oblivious wife. Valerie had advised her to be gone before the papers were served to protect herself from Derek's reaction. You ready for tomorrow? Morgan asked, as they sat in her living room that evening. Elena thought about the question. Was she ready to officially end her marriage? To set in motion legal proceedings that would expose Derek's crimes? To stand in front of a judge and recount every betrayal? Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. He's going to try to contact you, Morgan warned. Going to try to explain or manipulate or make you feel guilty. You have to stay strong. I know. Elena looked at her phone, where numerous text messages from Derek asked where she was. She hadn't responded to any of them. Valerie said not to engage. So I won't. What about Brooke? You think she knows what Derek's been doing? The stealing? Elena had wondered that herself. The emails between Derek and Brooke never mentioned the stolen money specifically, but they discussed their future plans in detail, plans that required significant funds neither of them legitimately had. I don't know if she knew about the stealing, Elena said slowly, but she knew he was married, knew he was lying to me every day. That makes her complicit enough. Morgan nodded. What are you going to do about her? Nothing directly, but her name is in all the police reports. She benefited from stolen money. She's going to face consequences even if they're just professional. Good. Morgan squeezed Elena's hand. You deserve justice, Elena, for all of it. That night, Elena barely slept. She kept checking her phone, watching Derek's messages grow more frantic. By late night, he had called numerous times and sent many texts. Where are you? Elena, please answer me. I'm worried about you. Did something happen? Please come home. What all lies. He wasn't worried about her. He was worried about losing control, about his plans falling apart. Early the next morning, Elena's phone rang. Valerie's number. It's done, Valerie said. The papers are being served at his office in a short time. The accounts are frozen. The restraining order is active. Detective Reyes is on standby. Are you somewhere safe? I'm at Morgan's. Good. Stay there. Don't go to work today. Don't go anywhere Derek might look for you. Let him have his reaction without an audience. Okay, Elena agreed. She hung up and looked at Morgan, who had emerged from her bedroom in pajamas. It's happening. They're serving him soon. Morgan made coffee while they waited. Neither of them spoke much. There was nothing left to say. Everything that could be prepared had been prepared. Now they just had to wait for Derek's world to explode. Later that morning, Valerie sent a text. Papers served. He is in shock. Tried to call you, don't answer. Elena's phone immediately started ringing. Derek's name flashed on the screen. She silenced it. Minutes later, another call, then another. Then texts flooded in. What is this? Call me right now. Elena, this is insane. We need to talk. You can't just freeze our accounts. This is illegal. Call me now. Elena handed her phone to Morgan. Put it away. I don't want to see it. Morgan took the phone and turned it off completely. Good. Let him panic. Let him realize you're not the pushover he thought you were. By midday, Valerie called with an update. Detective Reyes picked Derek up for questioning. He denied everything at first, but the evidence is overwhelming. They're holding him for a period while they build the case. What about Brooke? Elena asked. Reyes wants to question her too. She's been served with a subpoena. Her employer, Whitman and Associates, was notified about the situation. She's been suspended pending their internal investigation. Something fierce and satisfied bloomed in Elena's chest. Good. There's one more thing, Valerie said. Derek tried to access the accounts this morning, found them frozen, and went to the bank. They showed him the court order and refused to release any funds. He's effectively broke. What about the apartment? Lease is in his name, paid through the end of the month. After that, he'll have nowhere to go unless Brooke supports him. Elena thought about that. Derek and Brooke, suddenly facing the real consequences of their choices. No stolen money to fund their fantasy life. No escape to another state. No happy ending. Just reality, cold and unforgiving. Thank you, Valerie, Elena said, for everything. We're just getting started, Valerie replied. This was the easy part. Now comes the real fight. Elena hung up and looked at Morgan. For the first time in the recent period, she felt like she could breathe, like the weight crushing her chest had lifted slightly. Derek was in custody. The accounts were frozen. The truth was coming out. She had taken the first step toward reclaiming her life. And she wasn't going to stop until she had rebuilt everything he had destroyed. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for soon. Elena wore a navy blue suit and sat beside Valerie in the courtroom, her hands folded calmly in her lap despite the chaos raging inside her chest. Derek sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with a public defender looking haggard and desperate. He kept trying to catch Elena's eye, but she stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge him. Judge Eleanor Hayes presided, a stern woman in her later years with silver hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She reviewed the motions before her with careful attention. This is a motion to maintain asset freeze and restraining order in the matter of Voss versus Harlan, Judge Hayes said. I've reviewed the evidence submitted by the plaintiff. Mr. Harlan, your attorney may present your counter-argument. The public defender stood, a young man who looked overwhelmed by the stack of evidence against his client. Your Honor, my client maintains that there has been a misunderstanding. The accounts in question were joint accounts, and he had every right to access them. The allegations of fraud and theft are exaggerated. Judge Hayes looked over her glasses at him. Exaggerated? The forensic analysis shows a large sum transferred without the plaintiff's knowledge or consent. There are forged signatures on multiple documents. How is this exaggerated? My client was managing their finances. By stealing his wife's inheritance? Judge Hayes' tone was sharp. By taking out credit cards in her name? By selling her deceased father's car without permission? The public defender had no good response. We request time to prepare a proper defense. To request noted. However, given the severity of the allegations and the documented evidence of ongoing financial crimes, I'm maintaining the asset freeze and restraining order. Mr. Harlan will remain in custody until the criminal investigation is complete. Judge Hayes looked at Derek directly. Do you understand the charges against you? Derek stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, please. This is all a misunderstanding. My wife is confused. We can work this out. Sit down, Mr. Harlan. This isn't a marriage counseling session. This is a court of law, and you're facing serious criminal charges. Judge Hayes turned to Valerie. Ms. Quinn, I'm approving your motion for exclusive possession of the marital home. Mrs. Voss may return whenever she chooses. Thank you, Your Honor, Valerie said. We'll reconvene for the criminal hearing soon. Until then, Mr. Harlan, you're remanded to custody. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Derek tried to call out to Elena as the bailiffs led him away, but she was already walking out of the courtroom with Valerie. That went well, Valerie said once they were in the hallway. The judge saw right through his manipulation attempts. What happens now? Elena asked. Now we build the divorce case while the criminal investigation continues. In the meantime, you can go home. The house is legally yours until the divorce is finalized. The word felt strange. Could she really go back to that house full of lies? Could she sleep in the bed she had shared with Derek? Walk through rooms where he had deceived her for years? I don't know if I can, Elena admitted. Valerie nodded understanding. Take your time. But Elena, at some point you're going to have to reclaim your space. Don't let him take your home from you too. That afternoon, Morgan drove Elena to the house. They sat in the driveway for several minutes, Elena staring at the brick colonial that had been her home for years. You want me to come in with you? Morgan offered. Please. They walked through the front door together. Everything looked the same. The furniture they had picked out together. The photos on the wall showing a happy couple who didn't exist. The kitchen where Derek had kissed her goodbye every morning before going to his fake job. Elena walked through each room, seeing it all with new eyes. The office where Derek had kept his laptop full of lies. The bedroom where he had held her at night before meeting Brooke. The bathroom where he had gotten ready for dates with his girlfriend. In the master bedroom, Elena opened Derek's closet. His suits hung neatly, his shoes lined up on the rack. She pulled out his expensive watch from the drawer, the one she had bought him for an anniversary. "I'm getting rid of all of this," Elena said. Morgan raised an eyebrow. "Legally speaking, maybe we should donate it instead." "Fine, donate it. I don't want any of his things here." They spent the rest of the afternoon boxing up everything that belonged to Derek. Clothes, toiletries, books, electronics. Everything went into trash bags and boxes. Morgan called a donation center to pick it all up the next day. While they worked, Elena's phone rang, a known number. She answered cautiously. "Elena, it's Brooke." Elena's blood ran cold. She put the phone on speaker so Morgan could hear. "I have nothing to say to you," Elena said flatly. "Please, just listen. I didn't know he was stealing from you. I swear I didn't know about any of that." Brooke's voice was shaky, desperate. "He told me you were separated, that you were getting divorced. I never would have." "Don't." Elena's voice was ice. "Don't you dare pretend you didn't know. You knew he was married. You saw him leave to go home to me every night. You helped him lie for years, but the money, I didn't know. You benefited from it. You lived in an apartment paid with my inheritance. You wore jewelry bought with stolen money. You went on trips on my grandmother's legacy." Elena's hand shook with rage. "You knew enough. I lost my job because of this," Brooke said, and now there was anger in her voice. "Whitman and Associates fired me. My career is ruined, all because Derek lied. You ruined your own career when you decided to sleep with a married man." Elena cut her off. "Derek lied to both of us, but you chose to believe those lies because they were convenient, because they gave you what you wanted." "I'm sorry," Brooke whispered. "I really am sorry." "I don't care if you're sorry. I care that you face consequences for your choices, and you will." Elena hung up. Morgan stared at her. Damn, that was ice cold. She deserved it. Elena tossed her phone aside. She wants sympathy? She wants me to comfort her because she lost her job? She helped destroy my life for years. You think she really didn't know about the stealing? Elena considered it. The emails had never explicitly mentioned the theft, but they had discussed expensive plans, luxury purchases, trips abroad. Brooke had to have wondered where the money came from. Even if she didn't know the specifics, she knew something was wrong. She knew enough, Elena said, and she chose not to ask questions because asking questions would have ruined her fantasy. That evening after Morgan left, Elena sat alone in her reclaimed house. She had changed the locks, removed every trace of Derek, taken back her space, but it still felt haunted by his lies. Her phone buzzed with a message from Valerie. "Brooke's attorney contacted me. She wants to negotiate, offering testimony against Derek in exchange for immunity from civil suit." Elena stared at the message. Brooke wanted protection, wanted to avoid consequences by turning on Derek. She typed back, "What would her testimony add to our case?" Valerie responded immediately. "Details about timeline, his statements to her, possibly evidence we don't have yet. Could be valuable for the criminal case." Elena thought about it. Part of her wanted to reject any deal with Brooke on principle, but the rational part, the part that wanted Derek to pay for everything he had done, saw the value. "What do you recommend?" Elena texted. "Let her testify, get everything we can to bury Derek, then decide about the civil suit after." Elena made her decision. "Okay, but I make no promises about the lawsuit." "Understood, I'll set up the deposition for soon." The following period, Elena sat across from Brooke in Valerie's conference room. This was the first time she had seen the woman who had helped destroy her marriage in person outside of photographs and surveillance footage. Brooke was pretty in a delicate way, with blonde hair and wide eyes that were currently red from crying. She looked terrified, her hands shaking as she signed the deposition agreement. Valerie started the recording. "Please state your name for the record." "Brooke Ellison," she said quietly. And your relationship to Derek Harlan? We were in a relationship for some time. You were aware he was married? Brooke hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Please answer verbally for the recording. Yes, I knew he was married. Valerie led her through the timeline. Brooke confirmed that Derek had told her he and Elena were separated and planning to divorce. She had believed him because she wanted to believe him. Over the years, they had built a life together funded by money. Derek said came from his lawyer's salary and investments. Did you ever question where the money came from? Valerie asked. Sometimes, Brooke admitted. He was very generous, but he said he was good at investing. I wanted to trust him. Did you ever see bank statements or financial records? No, he handled all the finances for our apartment and trips. Were you aware he was planning to move with you? Yes. He said once his divorce was final, we could start fresh. Valerie pulled out printouts of emails. These are communications between you and Mr. Harlan discussing houses in another state. Did you help look for properties? Yes, Brooke whispered, staring at the emails like they might bite her. Were you aware these houses were being purchased with money stolen from his wife? No, I swear I didn't know. Brooke looked at Elena for the first time. I thought it was his money. He said it was his money from his job and investments. Elena met her gaze without emotion. She didn't believe Brooke was completely innocent, but she did believe Brooke hadn't known about the theft. Brooke had been willfully blind, choosing comfort over truth. What happened when you found out? Valerie continued. I confronted him. He admitted he had been lying about the divorce, said you refused to let him go, that you were holding him hostage financially. Brooke's voice broke. He made it sound like you were the villain. And you believed him? I wanted to. I loved him. Brooke wiped her eyes. But then I got the subpoena. Then I read the police report. Then I saw all the evidence. And I realized he had been lying to both of us. Valerie made notes. Are you willing to testify to all of this in court? Yes, I'll tell them everything I know. The deposition continued for some time. Brooke provided details about Derek's spending habits, his lies, his manipulation tactics. She confirmed dates and locations, corroborating Victor's surveillance reports. By the end, Valerie had enough testimony to significantly strengthen the criminal case against Derek. When it was over, Brooke stood on shaking legs. She looked at Elena one more time. I really am sorry for all of it. Elena stood too. She wanted to rage at this woman, wanted to list every way Brooke had contributed to the destruction of her life. But looking at Brooke now, jobless, heartbroken, facing her own consequences, Elena felt nothing but cold satisfaction. You should be sorry, Elena said quietly, but your apology doesn't change anything. You made choices. Now you live with them. Brooke nodded and left the conference room, her shoulders hunched with shame. Valerie looked at Elena with respect. That took strength. Most people would have screamed at her. Screaming would give her too much power, Elena said. She doesn't deserve my anger. She deserves to be forgotten. As Elena drove home that evening, she felt something shift inside her. The rage that had sustained her through the recent period was transforming into something else, something colder and more purposeful. She wasn't interested in revenge anymore. She was interested in justice. And justice meant making sure Derek faced every consequence he had earned. The divorce trial began on a cold morning. Elena sat beside Valerie at the plaintiff's table, wearing a charcoal gray suit that Morgan had helped her pick out. Professional, confident, unshakable. Derek sat across the courtroom with his attorney, a sharp woman named Carolyn Brooks, who specialized in defending difficult cases. Brooks had replaced the public defender once Derek's parents had scraped together money for private counsel. Judge Eleanor Hayes presided again, her expression impassive as she reviewed the case files before her. This is Voss versus Harlan, petition for divorce with allegations of adultery and financial misconduct. Ms. Quinn, you may begin. Valerie stood and presented the case methodically. She entered into evidence the forensic accountant's report showing the stolen funds. She presented Victor's surveillance photograph showing Derek and Brooke together. She submitted the forged signatures and fraudulent loan documents. Each piece of evidence was another nail in Derek's defense. When it was time for testimony, Elena took the stand. She had practiced this with Valerie numerous times, but her heart still raced as she placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Valerie led her through the chronology. The long marriage, the discovery at Derek's supposed workplace, the financial investigation, the systematic theft, the planned abandonment. Mrs. Voss, can you describe how you felt when you discovered your husband's deception? Valerie asked. Devastated, Elena said clearly. Not just because of the affair, but because everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. My husband's job, our financial situation, our future plans, none of it was real. Did you have any indication before that day that something was wrong? No. Derek was careful. He maintained the lie perfectly. I trusted him completely. Valerie entered more evidence. Emails from Derek to Brooke discussing their future, his fake calendar appointments, the apartment lease. Each document painted a picture of calculated deception spanning years. Caroline Brooks cross-examined with aggression. Mrs. Voss, isn't it true that you and your husband had marital problems before this alleged discovery? No, Elena said firmly. Our marriage seemed fine because I didn't know I was living a lie. You never suspected infidelity? No. You never questioned your husband about his whereabouts or finances? I trusted my husband. That was my mistake. Brooks tried to suggest Elena had been negligent in managing their finances, that she should have noticed the missing money. Valerie objected repeatedly, and Judge Hayes sustained most of them. Mrs. Voss is the victim here, Ms. Brooks, the judge said sharply. She didn't forge signatures, she didn't steal money, she didn't commit fraud. Move on to relevant questions. When Derek took the stand, he tried the charm offensive. Smiled at the judge, spoke in reasonable tones, positioned himself as a man who had made mistakes but deserved understanding. I never meant to hurt Elena, Derek said, his voice thick with false emotion. I love my wife. I just got confused. Brooke and I, it was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I regret every day. Valerie demolished him on cross-examination. Mr. Harlan, you testified that your relationship with Brooke Ellison was a mistake. A mistake that lasted years? It was complicated. Yes or no, Mr. Harlan? Did your affair last years? Yes, but... And during those years, did you tell your wife about this mistake? No, I didn't want to hurt her. You didn't want to hurt her, but you stole a large sum from her? I was going to pay it back. With what money, Mr. Harlan? You earn a modest salary as a leasing agent. How are you planning to repay such a large amount? Derek had no answer. Valerie continued ruthlessly. You forged your wife's signature on loan documents, correct? I needed yes or no? Yes. You sold her deceased father's car without her knowledge? Yes, but I needed the money for your apartment with Ms. Ellison, for trips abroad, for jewelry and dinners and a lifestyle funded entirely by theft? I was going to fix it. By running away to another state? Valerie pulled out the emails. You were planning to leave soon. To disappear with Ms. Ellison using your wife's stolen money? How are you going to fix it from there, Mr. Harlan? The courtroom was silent except for Derek's heavy breathing. He looked at Elena, his eyes pleading. She stared back without expression. No further questions, Valerie said. The trial continued for several more days. Brooke testified, providing details that corroborated Elena's timeline. The forensic accountant explained the financial trail. Victor presented surveillance evidence. Caroline Brooks fought hard, but she had no real defense against the overwhelming documentation of Derek's crimes. On the final afternoon, Judge Hayes delivered her verdict. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony in this matter. The documentation is clear and comprehensive. Mr. Harlan engaged in systematic fraud, theft, and deception over a period of years. He betrayed his wife's trust, stole her inheritance, and planned to abandon her with nothing but debt. Derek's face went pale. In the matter of the divorce, I'm granting the petition. The marriage is dissolved. Mrs. Voss is awarded the marital home, all remaining marital assets, and full restitution for all stolen funds in the amount of the calculated sum. Furthermore, I'm ordering Mr. Harlan to pay Mrs. Voss's legal fees, court costs, and additional damages for emotional distress in a significant amount. Additionally, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. The evidence of fraud and identity theft is overwhelming and warrants criminal charges. Judge Hayes looked directly at Derek. Mr. Harlan, you didn't just betray your marriage vows. You committed serious crimes against the person who trusted you most. I hope you understand the gravity of what you've done. She brought down her gavel. This court is adjourned. Elena sat still for a moment, letting the verdict sink in. She had won. Completely, utterly, decisively won. Valerie turned to her with a wide smile. We did it. Everything you wanted. Not everything, Elena said quietly. Not until the criminal trial is over. The criminal trial was scheduled for later. The district attorney, Margaret Phillips, was prosecuting personally because of the high-profile nature of the case and the substantial amount of money involved. In the meantime, Elena focused on rebuilding. She returned fully to work at her accounting firm, throwing herself into client cases with renewed energy. Her colleagues had been supportive throughout the ordeal, and now they celebrated her victory. Morgan threw a divorce party at her apartment, inviting their closest friends. They toasted to new beginnings and freedom from lies. Elena laughed more that evening than she had in the recent period. But beneath the celebration, Elena was planning her next move. She had her house back. Her money would be returned once Derek's assets were liquidated. Her name was clear. Now she wanted to make sure this never happened to anyone else. She scheduled a meeting with Valerie for the following period. I want to start a business, Elena told her attorney. A consulting firm that helps women identify financial abuse and protect their assets. Too many women don't realize they're being manipulated until it's too late. Valerie's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. Your experience gives you credibility, and there's definitely a market for it. I want to offer forensic accounting reviews, financial literacy workshops, and direct consultation for women who suspect their partners are hiding assets or committing fraud. You could partner with divorce attorneys, Valerie suggested. We could refer clients to you for financial analysis before they file. They spent the next hour brainstorming business plans. Elena felt energized in a way she hadn't since before the discovery. She was taking her trauma and transforming it into something meaningful, something that would help others. Sometime later, Elena filed incorporation papers for Phoenix Financial Consulting. The name represented rising from ashes, rebuilding from destruction. It felt right. She rented a small office downtown and hired a part-time assistant. Her first client was a referral from Valerie, a woman who suspected her husband was hiding money in offshore accounts. Elena spent several weeks analyzing the woman's financial records. She found hidden accounts, suspicious transfers, and evidence of systematic manipulation. Armed with Elena's report, the woman filed for divorce with a complete picture of her financial situation. You saved me, the woman told Elena tearfully. Without your help, I never would have found any of this. More clients followed. Women who had been gaslit about finances, women whose partners controlled all the money, women who discovered, like Elena had, that their entire financial lives were built on lies. Elena helped each one with thorough analysis, clear documentation, and compassionate support. She understood what they were going through because she had lived it. By a certain point, Phoenix Financial Consulting had helped numerous women uncover financial abuse and recover a large sum in hidden or stolen assets. The local news ran a story about Elena's business. From victim to victor, how one woman turned financial betrayal into a mission to help others. The publicity brought more clients and media attention. Elena was invited to speak at women's networking events about financial literacy and protection. She developed workshops about identifying warning signs of financial abuse. Through it all, she prepared for Derek's criminal trial. She met with DA Phillips regularly, reviewing testimony and evidence. The charges were serious: multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, forgery, and theft. "He's looking at a significant sentence if convicted on all counts," Phillips told Elena. "His attorney is pushing for a plea deal." "What kind of deal?" Elena asked. "A reduced sentence with possibility of early release if he admits guilt and pays full restitution." Elena considered it. Part of her wanted to see him stand trial, to watch him publicly face every charge. But another part just wanted it over, wanted to move forward without looking back. "What do you recommend?" she asked Phillips. "The plea deal guarantees conviction and restitution. A trial could result in acquittal if we get a sympathetic jury, though that's unlikely given the evidence." Phillips leaned forward. "But Elena, this is your decision. He hurt you. You get to decide how much fight you want." Elena thought about Derek in prison for years. Thought about him losing his freedom the way he had tried to steal hers. Thought about him having years to regret his choices. "I'll take the deal," she said. "On one condition: he has to publicly admit to everything, full allocution, every charge, every theft, every lie. I want it on record." Phillips smiled. "Done." The plea hearing was scheduled for soon. Elena sat in the courtroom again, but this time she felt different, stronger. No longer a victim waiting for justice, but a survivor who had already moved on. Derek stood before the judge and read his allocution. "I, Derek Harlan, plead guilty to multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, forgery, and theft over a large amount. I stole money from my wife, Elena Voss. I forged her signatures. I betrayed her trust. I accept full responsibility for my actions." His voice cracked on the last sentence. Elena felt nothing. Judge Hayes accepted the plea and imposed the sentence. A number of years in state prison, full restitution to Elena, no contact order permanent. As the bailiffs led Derek away, he looked at Elena one last time. She saw regret in his eyes, maybe even genuine remorse. Too little, too late. Elena walked out of the courthouse into the sunshine with Valerie beside her. "It's over," Valerie said. "You won everything." "No," Elena corrected her. "I survived everything, and now I'm building something better." Elena listed them clearly: a partner who controls all the finances, unexplained withdrawals or transfers, resistance to joint accounts or transparency, sudden lifestyle changes that don't match income, secretive behavior around money. "The key is trusting your instincts," Elena said. "If something feels wrong, investigate. Don't let anyone convince you that asking questions means you don't trust them. Trust is earned through transparency." The interviewer nodded. "You've helped dozens of women uncover financial abuse. What's the most important thing you want them to know?" That it's not their fault. Financial abuse is manipulation and deception. Smart, successful, capable women can be victims because they trust their partners. But once you know the truth, you have power. You can protect yourself. You can rebuild. The interview aired and went viral quickly. Elena's phone rang constantly with media requests, potential clients, and women sharing their own stories of financial abuse. Phoenix Financial Consulting's website crashed from traffic. Elena's assistant worked overtime scheduling consultations and workshop registrations. By the end of the period, Elena had been contacted by major news networks, podcast hosts, and a literary agent interested in a book deal. "This is overwhelming," Elena told Morgan over coffee. "I didn't expect this level of response." "You touched a nerve," Morgan said. "How many women do you think are living the same lie you were? They saw themselves in your story." Elena thought about that. How many women were being gaslit about finances right now? How many had no idea their partners were stealing from them? How many would discover the truth too late? She made a decision. I'm starting a foundation, Elena told Morgan, a nonprofit that provides free financial analysis for women who can't afford private consulting. I want to help everyone, not just those who can pay. Morgan's eyes widened. That's ambitious. Do you know how much work that involves? I know, but I have the resources now, the restitution money, the business income, the media attention. I can use all of it to build something that outlasts me. Over the next period, Elena worked with attorneys to establish the Restoration Foundation. Its mission: to provide free forensic financial services to women escaping abusive relationships and to educate the public about financial manipulation. The foundation's first major donor was an anonymous benefactor who contributed a significant amount. Elena later learned it was Judge Hayes using money from her family trust. Other donations followed: women who had used Phoenix Financial Consulting, corporations looking for charitable tax deductions, individuals who had heard Elena's story and wanted to help. By a later point, the Restoration Foundation had enough funding to hire full-time forensic accountants and open a free clinic several days a week. Elena's first pro bono client through the foundation was a young woman who worked minimum wage and couldn't afford private help. Her boyfriend had taken out credit cards in her name and destroyed her credit. Elena spent hours analyzing the woman's financial records, documenting the fraud, and helping her file police reports. She worked with legal aid attorneys to clear the woman's name and recover her credit. I thought I was stuck, the woman told Elena tearfully. Thought I had to live with the debt because I couldn't afford help. You gave me hope. Stories like that kept Elena going through the exhausting work of running both a business and a foundation. She hired more staff, developed more programs, and accepted more speaking engagements. Sometime after Derek's sentencing, Elena was invited to testify before a state legislative committee about financial abuse. She presented data from her cases showing how common financial manipulation was and how few resources existed for victims. Financial abuse is often invisible, Elena told the legislators. No bruises, no police reports, no shelters. Women discover they've been victimized only after the damage is done. We need laws requiring financial transparency in marriages. We need resources for forensic analysis. We need education about warning signs. The committee listened intently. Later, they drafted legislation requiring both spouses to sign off on major financial decisions and creating a state fund for financial abuse victims. Elena was invited to the bill signing ceremony. She stood beside the governor as he signed the Financial Transparency in Marriage Act into law. Knowing Derek's betrayal had led to protections for countless other women. Meanwhile, the consequences of the scandal continued to ripple through Derek and Brooke's lives. Brooke had moved to another city trying to rebuild her legal career. But the suspension from Whitman and Associates followed her. Firms ran background checks. They found the fraud case. They saw her testimony about the affair. Nobody wanted to hire a paralegal with that kind of baggage. Brooke eventually gave up on legal work and took a job as a secretary at a small insurance agency. Her dream of becoming an attorney died with her reputation. Derek in prison had time to reflect on his choices. Elena knew this because he wrote her letters. She never opened them. Her attorney reviewed them to ensure they didn't violate the no-contact order, then filed them away. Valerie told her the letters were full of apologies and self-pity. Derek claimed he had been confused, that he had loved both women, that he had made terrible mistakes but deserved forgiveness. He still doesn't get it, Valerie said. He thinks this was about love and confusion. He doesn't understand it was about control and theft. Elena didn't care what Derek understood. He was her past. Phoenix Financial Consulting and the Restoration Foundation were her future. 1 year after the discovery that had shattered her world, Elena stood at a podium before many women at a financial empowerment conference. She had been asked to give the keynote speech. 1 year ago, I learned that my marriage was a lie, Elena began. My husband had betrayed me in every possible way. He had stolen my money, my trust, and nearly my future. I had a choice in that moment. I could let his betrayal define me, or I could define myself through how I responded. She looked out at the audience. Women of all ages, all backgrounds, all facing their own financial challenges. I chose to rise. I chose to learn. I chose to help others. And in doing so, I discovered something important. Betrayal can destroy a relationship, but it doesn't have to destroy you. Pain can be transformed into purpose. Loss can become legacy. The audience gave her a standing ovation. After the speech, dozens of women approached Elena with their stories. Women who had been where she was, women who were currently discovering lies, women who wanted to protect themselves before it happened. Elena listened to each one, offered advice, and handed out business cards for Phoenix Financial Consulting and the Restoration Foundation. That evening, Morgan took her to dinner to celebrate. "You've come so far," Morgan said, raising her glass, "from the woman crying in the coffee shop to the keynote speaker at a major conference. I'm proud of you." "I'm proud of me, too," Elena admitted. "I never thought I could do any of this. I thought I needed Derek. Turns out I was always strong enough on my own." "More than strong enough," Morgan agreed. "You're thriving." Elena thought about that word, thriving. It felt accurate. Her business was successful. Her foundation was helping women. Her speaking career was growing. She had found purpose in her pain. The only thing missing was personal happiness, romantic love. But that would come in time. For now, Elena was content with the life she had built, the friendship she had strengthened, the women she had helped, the impact she was making. Derek had tried to destroy her. Instead, he had forged her into something stronger, and that was the best justice of all. Spring brought new growth, literal and metaphorical. Elena stood in her new office space watching workers install shelving and paint walls, the calming shade of blue she had selected. Phoenix Financial Consulting was expanding, moving from the small rental to a proper suite with space for her growing team. She had hired more forensic accountants and a full-time victim advocate who helped clients navigate the emotional trauma alongside the financial recovery. The waiting list for consultations stretched weeks out. The Restoration Foundation had grown too. They had helped many women in a short time, recovering a large sum in hidden or stolen assets. Local news covered their anniversary celebration, showcasing women whose lives had been transformed by their services. But the most significant change was internal. Elena felt different, stronger, more confident in her own judgment and capabilities than she had ever been, even before Derek. "You're glowing," Morgan observed during their weekly coffee date. "Seriously, you look happier than I've seen you in years." "I feel happy," Elena admitted. "Is that strange given everything?" "No, it's healing. It's what happens when you stop defining yourself by someone else's betrayal and start defining yourself by your own strength." Elena smiled. "When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just weren't ready to hear it before." Morgan leaned forward conspiratorially. "So, speaking of healing, when are you going to start dating again?" Elena laughed. "I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ready. It's been some time since the discovery, some time since the divorce was final." "You're allowed to move on." "I know, but dating feels complicated. How do I trust someone again? How do I know they're being honest about who they are?" "You can't know for certain. That's the risk of any relationship." Morgan stirred her latte thoughtfully. "But you're smarter now. You know warning signs. You know how to protect yourself. And more importantly, you know your own worth. You won't settle for less than you deserve." Elena considered that. She had dated a little in college before meeting Derek, but nothing serious. Derek had been her first real relationship, her first love, her first everything. Starting over at her age felt daunting. "I'm just focused on the business right now," Elena said. "Romance can wait." but the universe had other plans. Sometime later, Elena was invited to speak at a fundraiser for a domestic violence shelter. The event was at an upscale hotel downtown, with a silent auction and dinner followed by presentations from various nonprofits. Elena mingled during the cocktail hour, discussing her foundation's work with potential donors. That's when she noticed him. He was tall with dark brown skin, close-cropped hair, and an easy smile that reached his eyes. He wore a tailored navy suit and was deep in conversation with the shelter director, listening intently to whatever she was saying. Elena found herself watching him more than she should. The way he engaged in conversation, the genuine interest in his expression, the warmth in his laugh. She was so focused on him that she didn't notice when he finished his conversation and approached her table. "Elena Voss?" He extended his hand. "I'm Jonathan Hayes. I heard your speech at the Financial Empowerment Conference recently. It was inspiring." Elena shook his hand, trying not to notice how warm and strong his grip was. "Thank you. That's kind of you to say." "I mean it. Your foundation is doing important work." Jonathan gestured to the auction tables. "I actually bid on a consultation package you donated, hoping I win so I can learn more about what you do." "You don't need to win an auction for that. I'm happy to talk about the foundation." They found a quiet corner and talked for the next hour. Jonathan was an architect who specialized in designing affordable housing. He had his own firm and was passionate about creating safe, beautiful spaces for low-income families. "There's a lot of overlap in our missions," Jonathan said. "You're helping women protect their financial stability. I'm helping families to access stable housing. Both are about security and dignity." Elena found herself genuinely engaged in the conversation, not just being polite. Jonathan was intelligent, passionate about his work, and asked thoughtful questions about her experiences. When dinner was announced, they naturally sat together. The conversation flowed easily through the meal, discussing architecture, financial systems, the challenges of running small businesses, their favorite books and travel destinations. Elena realized she was enjoying herself more than she had expected. Jonathan was easy to talk to. He listened more than he spoke. He asked about her opinions and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. After her presentation about the Restoration Foundation, Jonathan was the first to stand and applaud. During the networking session afterward, he stayed nearby, occasionally catching her eye and smiling. At the end of the evening, Jonathan approached her again. "I know this might be forward, but would you like to have coffee sometime? I'd love to continue our conversation." Elena hesitated. Dating. The word felt heavy with implications and potential complications. But looking at Jonathan, his hopeful expression, his patient waiting, his respect for her answer, whatever it might be, she felt something shift. "I'd like that," she heard herself say. They exchanged numbers. Jonathan texted the next day with a simple message. "Coffee this weekend at a certain time? There's a great place near the park if you like walking." Elena stared at the text for several minutes before responding. "Sounds perfect." The weekend arrived with sunny skies and Elena's nerves. Morgan helped her pick out a casual outfit, jeans, a soft sweater, comfortable walking shoes. "Just be yourself," Morgan advised. "If he likes you, great. If not, you're still amazing and complete on your own." "When did you become a dating coach?" "When my best friend started glowing over an architect she met at a fundraiser." Morgan hugged her. "Go, have fun. You deserve this." Jonathan was waiting outside the coffee shop when Elena arrived. He smiled when she saw her, and Elena felt her anxiety ease slightly. They ordered coffee and walked through the nearby park. The conversation picked up where it had left off at the fundraiser, easy, natural, engaging. "Can I ask you something personal?" Jonathan said as they paused by a fountain. "Sure." "I heard about what happened with your ex-husband. The trial was in the news. I wanted you to know I'm not coming into this blind. I understand if you're cautious about trusting people." Elena appreciated his directness. "I'm cautious. Derek lied about everything for years. That does something to you." "I imagine it does." Jonathan's expression was serious. For what it's worth, I believe in radical honesty in relationships. I'd rather have an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. That's refreshing to hear. I'm divorced too, Jonathan admitted, some time ago. My ex-wife and I wanted different things. She wanted to move to a big city for her career. I wanted to stay here and build my firm. We tried to make it work long distance, but it didn't. We ended things amicably. Do you still talk to her? Occasionally. We're not close, but we're not enemies either. We just wanted different lives. He paused. I learned from that relationship that honesty about what you want is crucial. Pretending or compromising on fundamental things just delays the inevitable. They walked for another period, sharing more about their lives, their families, their dreams. Jonathan told her about growing up in a family of builders and developing a passion for architecture that served communities. Elena talked about her grandmother's influence and how losing her inheritance to Derek's theft had felt like losing that connection twice. But you turned it into something positive, Jonathan said. Your foundation honors her memory better than money in an account ever could. The date ended with Jonathan walking Elena to her car. No pressure for a kiss, just a warm goodbye and a request to see her again. I'd like that, Elena said honestly. They fell into a pattern of regular dates over the next period: coffee on weekends, dinner on certain evenings, a museum visit, a concert, a cooking class where they both failed spectacularly at making pasta. Jonathan was patient with Elena's caution. When she hesitated to share something personal, he didn't push. When she needed space to process her feelings, he gave it without making her feel guilty. I like him, Morgan declared after hearing about the fourth date. He sounds emotionally mature and respectful. He is, Elena agreed. But I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for some secret to emerge. That's trauma talking. Not everyone is Derek. Elena knew Morgan was right, but the fear lingered. She found herself analyzing Jonathan's words for inconsistencies, checking his stories for lies, looking for red flags that might not exist. After their seventh date, Jonathan gently addressed it. They were having dinner at his place, a converted loft in a renovated warehouse that he had designed himself. The space was warm and modern with exposed brick, high ceilings, and huge windows overlooking the river. Can I say something that might be uncomfortable? Jonathan asked as they cleared dishes. Elena tensed. Okay. I notice you fact-checking things I tell you, verifying my stories, looking for contradictions. He said it kindly without accusation. I understand why given what you've been through, but I want you to know that I'm being completely honest with you, always have been. Elena felt her cheeks heat with embarrassment. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Don't apologize. Your caution makes sense. I just want you to know that I'm not offended by it. Take all the time you need to trust me. I'm not going anywhere. The gentleness in his voice, the complete lack of defensiveness, made Elena's throat tight with emotion. Derek was so good at lying, she said quietly. He looked me in the eye and lied every single day for years. I didn't see it because I trusted him completely. How do I trust my judgment again? Jonathan moved closer and took her hand. By starting small. Trust me with small things and see what happens. When I tell you I'll do something, see if I do. When I say I'll be somewhere, see if I show up. Build trust through consistency, not blind faith. What if I can't get there? What if I'm too broken to trust anyone again? You're not broken, Elena. You're healing, and healing takes time. Jonathan squeezed her hand. I'm willing to be patient while you heal, but I need you to be patient with yourself, too. Elena looked at this man who had shown her nothing but honesty, respect, and understanding, who had listened to her story without judgment, who had waited for her to be ready instead of pushing. Thank you, she whispered, for understanding. They kissed for the first time that night, gentle, sweet, full of possibility. Over the next few months, Elena slowly let her guard down. Jonathan proved his reliability through consistent actions. He showed up when he said he would, called when he promised, introduced her to his friends and family, shared his financial records when she nervously asked to see them. "This is probably crazy," Elena had said when she asked, "but I need to know you're being honest about your business and finances." Jonathan had pulled up his accounting software without hesitation. "Not crazy at all. Here's everything: my firm's finances, my personal accounts, my tax returns. I have nothing to hide." That openness, that willingness to be completely transparent, helped Elena trust him in a way she hadn't thought possible. By a later season, they were seriously dating. Jonathan had met Morgan, who thoroughly approved. Elena had met Jonathan's family, his parents, siblings, and felt welcomed immediately. "You make Jonathan happy," his mother told Elena at a family gathering. "I can see it in his eyes when he looks at you." Elena saw it too. Jonathan looked at her with genuine affection, admiration, and respect, not possession or control, not manipulation or deception, just honest emotion. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. One evening, sitting on Jonathan's balcony watching the sunset over the river, Elena felt something settle in her chest. Contentment. The bone-deep certainty that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "What are you thinking?" Jonathan asked, his arm around her shoulders. "That I'm happy," Elena said. "Genuinely, completely happy." "Good. You deserve to be happy." "So do you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn pink and gold. Elena thought about where she had been some time ago. Devastated, betrayed, her world shattered. She thought about where she was now: successful business owner, foundation director, keynote speaker, and woman in a healthy relationship with a good man. The journey from one to the other had been painful and difficult, but it had also been necessary. She had learned her worth, discovered her strength, built something meaningful from her pain, and now, finally, she was allowing herself to be happy again, not despite what Derek had done to her, but because of what she had done for herself afterward. She had risen from the ashes, and she was still rising. Sometime later, Elena sat in a television studio in a major city. The producers of a national morning show wanted to do a follow-up segment on her story, focusing on the success of Phoenix Financial Consulting and the Restoration Foundation. "You've helped many women recover a large sum in hidden or stolen assets," the host said, reading from her notes with amazement. "That's extraordinary." "The need is extraordinary," Elena responded. "Financial abuse is far more common than people realize. We're just scratching the surface." The segment aired the following morning, reaching millions of viewers. Elena's phone exploded with messages: media requests, potential clients, women sharing their stories, and donors wanting to support the foundation. One message stood out. It was from a literary agent. "I saw your interview. Your story needs to be a book. Would you be interested in discussing a book deal?" Elena called the agent that afternoon. Within a short time, she had an offer from a major publisher for a book tentatively titled Rising Phoenix: How I Turned Financial Betrayal into Empowerment. The advance was substantial, enough to expand the foundation significantly and hire more staff for Phoenix Financial Consulting. Elena spent her evenings and weekends writing, pouring her experience into chapters that balanced personal narrative with practical advice. She detailed the warning signs of financial abuse, steps for protection, legal resources, and emotional recovery strategies. Morgan helped her edit, offering feedback on tone and clarity. "This is going to help so many women," Morgan said, reading a draft chapter. "You're giving them hope and practical tools." Jonathan supported her through the intense writing process, bringing her dinner when she worked late, and listening to her read chapters aloud to test the flow. "You're going to change lives with this book," Jonathan told her one evening. "Already have changed lives, but this will reach women who might never find your foundation or consulting business." The book was scheduled for publication in the coming months. The publisher planned a national book tour with events in several major cities. Meanwhile, Phoenix Financial Consulting continued to thrive. Elena had expanded to a team of several: forensic accountants, victim advocates, and an office manager. They had moved to an even larger office space with conference rooms for client meetings and workshops. The Restoration Foundation secured a major grant from a national women's organization, allowing them to open satellite offices in additional cities. Each office was staffed with local forensic accountants who provided free services to women in need. Elena hired the young woman who had been her first pro bono client as the foundation's client coordinator. The woman had rebuilt her credit, completed a business certificate, and wanted to help other women the way she had been helped. "You changed my life," the woman told Elena on her first day. "Now I want to pay that forward." The foundation's annual gala was scheduled for soon. It had grown from a small fundraiser to a major event with many attendees, including local politicians, business leaders, and media personalities. Elena stood at the podium in a deep emerald gown, looking out at the crowd. Some time ago, she had been crying in a coffee shop. Her world shattered. Now she was addressing hundreds of supporters about the impact they were making together. "When I discovered my husband's betrayal," Elena began, "I had a choice. Let it destroy me or let it define my purpose. I chose purpose, but I couldn't have built any of this alone. Every person in this room has contributed to helping women reclaim their financial independence and dignity." She detailed the foundation's achievements. Many women helped, a large sum recovered, new office locations, partnerships with domestic violence shelters, and legal aid organizations. "But numbers don't tell the whole story," Elena continued. "The real story is in the women we've helped. Women like the one who came to us drowning in fraudulent debt and is now our client coordinator. Women like others who discovered their partners had been stealing and now volunteer as peer counselors. Women like those who learned their business partners were embezzling and now run successful companies with proper financial controls." The audience applauded. Elena saw Jonathan in the front row, smiling proudly. Beside him sat Morgan, Valerie, Victor, and Detective Reyes, the team that had helped her when she needed it most. "These women didn't just survive financial abuse," Elena said. "They transformed their pain into power. They took back control of their lives, and that's what we're fighting for. Not just financial recovery, but complete empowerment." The gala raised a significant amount for the foundation. Donors committed to ongoing monthly support. Corporate sponsors signed on for the following year. After the event, Jonathan took Elena to their favorite restaurant, the quiet Italian place where they had one of their early dates. "I'm proud of you," Jonathan said, raising his wine glass. "Not just for tonight, but for everything you've built." "I couldn't have done it without support," Elena said. "Morgan, Valerie, you, all the people who believed in me when I was at my lowest. You would have found a way even without us. That's who you are, a survivor who becomes a warrior." They talked about future plans, expanding the foundation to more cities, developing an online course for financial literacy, creating a certification program for financial abuse advocates. "You're going to need more time," Jonathan observed, "between the business, the foundation, the book tour, and everything else." "I know. I'm thinking about hiring a CEO for the consulting business so I can focus on the foundation and advocacy work." "That makes sense. You've built something that can run without you being involved in every detail." Elena thought about that. She had started Phoenix Financial Consulting as a way to process her trauma and help others, but it had grown beyond her wildest expectations. It was time to let it evolve into something bigger. Over the next period, Elena worked with a recruiting firm to find the right CEO. She interviewed several candidates before meeting Rebecca Sullivan, a forensic accountant with extensive experience and a passion for financial justice. "I followed your work," Rebecca told Elena during the interview. "What you've built is remarkable. I want to help it grow while maintaining its mission and integrity." Elena hired Rebecca and spent the next period training her on operations, client protocols, and company culture. By a later point, Rebecca was fully leading Phoenix Financial Consulting while Elena shifted to a board chair role. This freed Elena to focus on the Restoration Foundation, which had become her true passion. The foundation was helping women who couldn't afford private services, the ones who needed help the most. She spent her days reviewing cases, training new forensic accountants, developing educational materials, and speaking at events about financial abuse awareness. The book launched to strong reviews and immediate bestseller status. Elena's book tour took her to several cities in a short time. At each event, many women showed up, some sharing their stories, others seeking advice, all looking for hope. "You made me realize I wasn't crazy," one woman told Elena at a signing in a major city. "My husband kept telling me I was bad with money, that I was irresponsible. But after reading your book, I had his finances analyzed. He'd been hiding a large sum." Stories like that one fueled Elena through the exhausting tour. She was making a difference, reaching women who might never have questioned their financial situations otherwise. Later, Elena was invited to speak at a United Nations Forum on Economic Empowerment for Women. She presented data from the Foundation's work, demonstrating the scope of financial abuse and the effectiveness of forensic analysis in helping victims. "Financial abuse is a global issue," Elena told the international audience. "It crosses cultures, economic classes, and educational levels, but the solution is consistent: education, transparency, and resources for victims to protect themselves and recover." The speech led to invitations to consult with international organizations about developing similar programs in other countries. The Restoration Foundation partnered with groups in neighboring countries and others to replicate their model. Through all of this, Jonathan remained her steady support. He attended events when his schedule allowed, celebrated her victories, and provided quiet comfort after difficult days. One evening in a certain month, they were having dinner at his loft when Jonathan said, "Can we talk about the future?" Elena's heart skipped. "Okay. We've been together for some time now. I know you're incredibly busy with the foundation and the book and everything else, but I want you to know that I'm serious about us, about building a life together." "I'm serious too," Elena said. "I'm not proposing tonight," Jonathan clarified with a smile. "But I wanted you to know that's where I see this heading when you're ready. No pressure." Elena felt warmth spread through her chest. Some time ago, the thought of marriage would have terrified her. Now with Jonathan, it felt like a natural progression. "I appreciate you telling me," she said. "And for the record, I'm getting there. Maybe not tomorrow, but definitely getting there." Jonathan reached across the table and took her hand. "That's all I need to hear." They continued building their relationship alongside their careers. Jonathan's architecture firm won a major contract to design a community housing project. Elena expanded the Restoration Foundation to more cities. Later, Elena received an award for her work in financial advocacy. "That was incredible," Jonathan said, kissing her cheek. "How does it feel to be officially award-winning?" "Surreal," Elena admitted. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life." "Believe it. You earned every bit of it." They flew back home the next morning. Elena had meetings scheduled all week: foundation board review, new hire interviews, podcast recording, and planning sessions for the annual gala. But first, she had promised to visit her mother, who had been following Elena's journey with pride and occasional concern about her overwhelming schedule. Elena's mother, Helen, greeted her with a tight hug at her suburban home. "My daughter, the award-winning advocate, your grandmother would be so proud." They sat in the kitchen over coffee and her mother's homemade lemon cake. Helen had been Elena's rock during the darkest days after Derek's betrayal, never saying, "I told you so," even though she had never fully warmed to him. "How are you really doing?" Helen asked, studying Elena's face the way only mothers can. "Not the professional success, Elena." "I'm good, Mom. Really good. Better than I've been in years." "And Jonathan? Things are still going well?" "They are. He's patient and kind and honest. Everything Derek wasn't." Helen nodded approvingly. "He treats you the way you deserve to be treated. I can see that." "I think I might marry him," Elena said quietly. "Not tomorrow, but eventually, when I'm completely ready." "Are you scared?" Helen asked gently. "Sometimes. The idea of trusting someone that completely again is terrifying, but Jonathan makes it feel possible." Your grandmother used to say that strength isn't the absence of fear, It's moving forward despite the fear. Helen squeezed Elena's hand. You've already shown more strength than most people ever will. If you decide Jonathan is worth the risk, you'll be fine. Elena thought about her grandmother often. The money Derek had stolen had been meant to secure Elena's future. Instead, it had funded his betrayal. But in the process of recovering from that theft, Elena had built something her grandmother would have valued more, a legacy of helping other women. I wish Grandma could see what I've built, Elena said. She can, and she's proud. Helen's eyes were bright with tears. I'm proud. You took something terrible and turned it into something beautiful. That weekend, Jonathan invited Elena to his parents' lake house. They spent the day on the water, swimming and talking about everything and nothing. That evening, as they watched the sunset from the dock, Jonathan said, I have something for you. He pulled a small wooden box from his pocket. Elena's heart raced. Before you panic, Jonathan said with a smile, it's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with a small phoenix charm. I saw this and thought of you, Jonathan explained. Rising from ashes, becoming stronger, helping others rise too, that's who you are. Elena felt tears prick her eyes as Jonathan fastened the bracelet around her wrist. It's perfect, thank you. When I do propose, Jonathan said softly, and I will, I want you to be completely sure. No doubts, no fear, just certainty that I'm someone you can trust with your heart. I'm getting there, Elena promised. Closer every day. They kissed as the sun set over the lake, and Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pure, uncomplicated happiness. The following period, the Restoration Foundation's annual gala was the biggest yet. Many attendees filled the ballroom. The event raised a large amount, enough to fund expansion to more cities. During her speech, Elena announced a new initiative, the Phoenix Scholarship Fund, which would provide financial support for women returning to school or starting businesses after leaving abusive relationships. Financial independence is crucial for safety, Elena told the crowd. Women often stay in abusive situations because they can't afford to leave. The scholarship fund will help remove that barrier. The announcement received enthusiastic applause and immediate donor commitments. After the event, Elena stood with her core team, Morgan, Valerie, Victor, Rebecca Sullivan, and now the client coordinator, and looked at what they had built together. We've come a long way from that first meeting in Valerie's office, Elena said. You've come a long way, Valerie corrected. We just helped you get there. No, Elena said firmly. We did this together. Every woman we've helped, every dollar we've recovered, every system we've changed, that's teamwork. Morgan raised her glass. To teamwork. And to Elena, who turned the worst day of her life into the best work of her life. They toasted and laughed and shared stories late into the night. Later, the district attorney called to inform Elena that Derek was being transferred to a minimum security facility for his final period of incarceration. He would be eligible for work release and could potentially be out in a short time with good behavior. How do you feel about that? The DA asked. Elena considered the question. Some time ago, the thought of Derek being released would have terrified her. Now she felt nothing but indifference. It doesn't matter, she said honestly. Derek is my past. My future has nothing to do with him. That's healthy, the DA said approvingly. Not many victims reach that point of closure. But Elena realized it wasn't closure she felt. It was transcendence. She had moved so far beyond Derek's betrayal that his existence barely registered in her consciousness anymore. A holiday eve, Jonathan's family hosted a gathering at their home. Elena had become comfortable with his family over the past period, appreciating their warmth and inclusion. After dinner, Jonathan's mother pulled Elena aside. Can I show you something? She led Elena to her study and pulled out a photo album. Inside were pictures of Jonathan's late grandmother. She passed some years ago, Jonathan's mother said. But before she died, she gave me her engagement ring and made me promise to give it to Jonathan when he found someone worthy of it. She opened a small box to reveal a beautiful vintage ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, in an Art Deco setting. I'm not showing you this to pressure you, she continued. I'm showing you because I want you to know that when Jonathan proposes, and he will, he'll be offering you this ring, and I want you to know it comes with our blessing and our certainty that you're the right woman for our son. Elena felt overwhelmed by the gesture. Thank you. That means everything. You've been through so much, Elena, but you've emerged stronger and more compassionate. Jonathan is lucky to have found you. As the year ended, Elena took stock of her life. The foundation was thriving, the business was successful. Her book continued to sell and help women worldwide. Her relationship with Jonathan was steady and healthy. Most importantly, she had healed. The wounds Derek had inflicted were now scars, reminders of what she had survived, but no longer sources of active pain. New Year's Eve, Elena and Jonathan attended a charity gala. As midnight approached, they stood on a balcony overlooking the city lights. "What are you hoping for this year?" Jonathan asked. Elena thought about it. Some time ago, she would have said professional milestones, expanding the foundation, hitting book sales targets, winning awards, but now her priorities had shifted. Balance, she said. I want to keep doing this important work, but I also want to live my life, build relationships, experience joy, not just survive, but truly thrive. That sounds perfect, Diana, Jonathan said. As the countdown began, Elena felt a sense of peace. She had spent years rebuilding from devastation, had transformed betrayal into purpose, had helped hundreds of women reclaim their power. But now it was time to also reclaim her own personal happiness. The crowd counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jonathan kissed her as fireworks exploded over the city. "Happy New Year, Elena." "Happy New Year," she replied, meaning it with every fiber of her being. Sometime later, Elena stood in her office reviewing the foundation's latest impact report. They had now helped many women across numerous cities. The scholarship fund had awarded several grants. The online financial literacy platform had many active users. Her phone rang. Jonathan's number. "Hey," she answered. "What's up? Can you meet me at the park? Our usual spot by the fountain?" "No, I have a meeting in an hour." "This is important. Please." Something in his voice made Elena agree. She drove to the park where they had their first real date, finding Jonathan waiting by the fountain in a suit instead of his usual casual wear. "What's going on?" Elena asked, suddenly nervous. Jonathan took both her hands. "Some time ago, I met a woman at a fundraiser. She was brilliant and passionate and beautiful, but she was also wounded, healing from a betrayal that would have destroyed most people." Elena's heart began to race. "I watched her transform that wound into a mission," Jonathan continued. "Watched her help many women. Watched her become not just a survivor, but a warrior. And I fell in love with her strength, her compassion, and her unwavering commitment to making the world better." He dropped to one knee, pulling out the Art Deco ring his grandmother had left. "Elena Voss, you've shown me what real strength looks like, what genuine kindness means, what it means to rise from ashes and become something even more beautiful. Will you marry me?" Elena looked down at this man who had been patient with her healing, supportive of her mission, and honest in all their interactions, who had proven through consistent actions that he was worthy of trust. The fear she had carried for so long dissolved. In its place was certainty. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." Jonathan slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her. Around them, people who had been watching applauded. That evening, Elena called her mother, Morgan, and her team to share the news. Everyone celebrated, already planning engagement parties and wedding details. But what Elena felt most was gratitude. Gratitude for the journey that had brought her here, for the betrayal that had nearly destroyed her, but instead forged her into something stronger, for the people who had supported her, for the women she had helped, for the second chance at love with a good man. Derek had tried to take everything from her, Instead, he had given her the opportunity to discover her true strength and purpose. She had risen from the ashes of his betrayal, and now, standing in her office looking at the engagement ring on her finger and the impact report showing many women helped, Elena understood something profound. The best justice wasn't just survival, it was building a life so full of meaning, purpose, and genuine happiness that the person who tried to destroy you became completely irrelevant. Derek was somewhere serving the remainder of his sentence, his life defined by his crimes and failures. Elena was here, engaged to a wonderful man running a successful business and foundation, making a real difference in the world. She had won, not by destroying him, but by creating something beautiful from the ruins he left behind. And that victory was sweeter than any revenge could ever be. Epilogue. Some years later, Elena stood backstage at a major conference about to give a talk on financial abuse awareness. She wore a navy dress and her grandmother's pearls. On her left hand, alongside her wedding band, sat the sapphire engagement ring Jonathan had given her some years ago. They had married in a small ceremony surrounded by family and friends, had bought a house together, one they both owned equally with complete financial transparency, had built a life based on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. The Restoration Foundation now operated in many cities across the country and had international partnerships in several countries. They had helped numerous women recover a very large sum. The scholarship fund had awarded many grants. Phoenix Financial Consulting, under Rebecca's leadership, had grown to many employees across multiple offices. Elena had written a second book about financial literacy for young adults. She served on boards of several national organizations focused on economic empowerment, and in her spare time she was raising her daughter, a young child named Grace Helen Hayes, named for her grandmother and great-grandmother,